morning and welcome back to Home and Give Virtual. In our next session, we're discussing key ways that small businesses need to be savvy to succeed. From selling in the current climate and building relationships to keeping your mindset in an awesome place during challenging times. It's my pleasure to welcome Laura Payne Stanley, business consultant and co-founder of Elevate Labs, and Rachel Perry, accountability and achievement coach. Welcome.
Hey there, everybody.
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting.
It is. And I can't wait for us to have this conversation today, Rachel. It's just going to be full. So if you're joining us, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. You may want to grab a notebook. Do you think that's fair to say, Rachel?
I was going to say you're going to want to. In fact, you should have one.
And something you should know about Rachel and I, we are kind of both a little bit eccentric. We talk quite fast. And we get exceptionally excited about this topic, don't we? Because there's so many nuggets in here.
Oh, so many. And I think probably the best way to do this, we're talking about we have 5 topics for you guys today, but because we're on a limited time frame, we're going to touch on them and then go deeper into a couple. Does that sound good?
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and kind of list them off. Laura, do you want to do that or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll do that. So we're going to talk about the importance of building relationships in business. And I've got to say, guys, we have got the queen of networking and relationship building with us. So we are so lucky. We're going to be talking about finding a coach, mentor, or a group during this time frame. We're going to be looking at how to keep your mindset in an awesome place that actually helps you in business. We're going to be talking about selling in the current climate and then business recovery in the long term, which is a huge topic. So we're just going to be touching on that one, isn't that? That's a huge one, Rachel.
We'll have to come back for that.
We do. So should we kick off with the one that I just said that you're the queen at, which is building important relationships in business?
Yes, absolutely. So here's the thing. Just to give you a little background on who I work with network marketers and direct sellers. So I teach them, so much of what I teach is about building relationships. It doesn't really though matter what industry you're in. Okay. If you're selling a product, you're selling a product. It's still a relationship business. Okay. So there's so much importance when you put the relationships first. Okay. Because when you lead with a sale, when you lead with your product, when you lead with even the service that you're offering, it can become a little bit salesy. It can become spammy. So it's so vital that you begin to build the relationship. And I use this story all the time. When my husband and I went to buy a car, buying a car is a pain in the butt anyway, right? Like that is not a fun experience. At least it's not in the States. It is not a fun experience. And I had my mind set on something. Of course, we ended up getting something completely different. But we got the car, and the salesman it didn't feel gross, right? It didn't, because sometimes those experiences can just be like, stop selling me everything. Fine, I want this car, right? So we bought the car. 2 days later, he reaches out to us, leaves a message on our phone and just says, hey, I just wanted to check and make sure you're still enjoying the car. Wanted to tell you about this feature about the car. I don't know if you've discovered this yet, but if you do this and that, then this happens. Just wanted to check it. Now, we didn't answer the phone because nobody answers the phone anymore, but he did leave a message, and that put a really good taste in our mouths. We're like, okay, all right. Then he checked up a couple of months later, just again, wasn't expecting us to respond, but just wanted to let us know that he was still paying attention. He remembered us, and he just wanted to touch base. Now, what has that done for us? We're not planning on buying a car anytime soon, but when we do, because cars don't last forever, we're going to go back to him. Plus, we're also going to recommend him to other people. And that's because he was putting the relationship first rather than the sale first. Okay. So yeah. I share that example because that's so much of what we need to be doing as business owners, right? We need to be sharing, building that relationship first, and then the sale will come. Now, obviously in this situation, the sale came first, but it was different because it was a relational experience rather than just a sell.
And it is so true, isn't it? So I think even you have to lead with relationship, and relationship goes in business, and it doesn't matter whether you're selling a product or service. It goes so much deeper than just what you do. Yeah. Because just sharing a quick story how we met. We met in Canada.
Yeah.
Rachel lives in the States. I live in the UK. We met in Canada. We literally created a relationship from across a conference room.
It's so true.
And it wasn't because of what we both did. It was
No,
because we got to know each other, and we both like English chocolate.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Cadbury's brought us
Cadbury's,
together.
what a bribe, Rachel. Cadbury's is great. But we created this relationship, and that happened after we left the conference.
Yes.
But it wasn't services because we were trying to sell to each other.
Mhm.
And so often you have to do those things. And that positive experience for someone that you just explained, in terms of brand equity, that is gold, isn't it? Because you're now that person's marketing. You're telling them, go for here for a car, go for this.
Yes, exactly.
So if we had a nugget, what would it be fair to say? Don't lead with your product or service. And I'm going to reframe because I'm an NLPer. Lead with you, lead with relationship, lead with soul, lead with heart.
Yes. And because the thing is, I know we have to move on, but the thing is, people aren't interested necessarily in your product. They're interested in you. Okay. They want to connect to you. Now, yes, the product comes, right? The buying the product and everything with that comes from that, but they want to feel that connection with you. That's what makes you different, is it's you. Nobody else is you.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of transitions a little bit into the next one, but let's give practical examples. When we talk about social media and when you're marketing, you've got to show up as you, not just your product or service, because people always want to know a little bit more about you. So, the question is, if you're watching and being with us here, are you thinking, actually, am I showing up as me enough in my marketing? Yes, you can have products and services and many different products and brands that you do, but the person wants to know you.
Absolutely.
Stories. They want to connect, don't they?
Yeah, you are your brand.
Yeah.
You are your brand. Regardless of what it is that you sell, what your business, it doesn't matter. You are your brand.
There we go. Truth bomb moment there. Again, we are both being very conscious of our time because Rachel and I, we get so passionate about this, but we will go off on one in a way because we get so passionate. We love it.
We do.
We're both coaches. We've talked before, you and I personally, around coach, mentor, and consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So the next point we're going to talk about is, how do you find a coach, mentor, or consultant, or a group? If it's okay with you, Rachel, I want to talk about the difference between them.
I was going to ask you to do that.
Thank you, my love, because there is a very definitive mark, and whether you want to go with the International Coaching Federation or your own definition, there is a very succinct difference between the coach and mentor and consultant. So very briefly, as a coach, then if you are coaching someone, the coaching philosophy is that that person has the answers. So a coach is all about you going internal. Mentor is, this is my process of what I've done before that's worked, and you're teaching your process. So it's much more a case of, this is what I've done, almost overlay it, a blueprint, someone who's previously done what you want them to do. And so you want to follow their kind of pattern. And consulting can be a hybrid. So consulting can be, what's your problem? Here's a solution. Now, it's really important to understand what it is you're looking for when you are looking for, let's call it just support. Do you think that's fair, Rach? If we say, actually, you're just looking for support, are you looking for a coach? Are you looking for a mentor? Or are you looking for a consultant? Then you have to, I'm always saying to people when people ask me this, you've got to do your due diligence. So in terms of a coach, the regulations to call yourself a coach are very different between America and here.
Yes, very different.
Very, very different between.
Surprise.
It changes internationally. So in America, in different states specific, there is different legislation of whether you can call yourself a coach and whether you're working locally or internationally. In the UK, you don't actually, there is none. So that's one thing to know, that there's no regulation between if you call yourself a coach. That's not to say that's good or bad or indifferent. It's just to know those things. Again, neither with a mentor or a consultant. But I will always say to people, you've got to understand what you are looking for. Are you looking to go internal? Do you want the answers given to you? Do you want a hybrid? What actually are you looking for? And the format of support. So I know both of us, Rachel, we both work independently, one-to-one with people, and we have group programs.
Right.
All are wonderful. All have different levels of support, don't they?
Yes, they do.
You've got to know actually how you're comfortable working with someone. So understand what I'm going to say really succinctly, understand what kind of support you're looking for in terms of coaching, mentoring, or consulting. Understand if you want to work with someone one-to-one. Understand if it's a group program. Set your budget.
Yes.
Set your budget, because everybody works very differently. In my belief system, you've got to understand what you're willing to invest, because you will find people on all over the spectrum. So you've got to really understand what it is that you're wanting to invest before you have conversations with people.
Yeah. And can I just interject on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're looking for someone or looking for community, because the community so often is what is so crucial, is having a community of like-minded people. And like Laura said, we both have communities. It's so important to do your research. Okay. If you decide that you want to work with a one-on-one coach or mentor or whatever, you need to do your research. If they are super cheap and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is awesome, I only have to pay whatever, do your research. Because sometimes someone who's come, I've had so many clients who have said, oh, well, I started working with this coach and she was only $50 a month. So which is why I signed up with her, but nothing happened. I got no results from it. And I'm like, well, because she's charging you $50 a month. I mean, what quality is that? But so you really have to think about that. Okay. Lower price is not necessarily going to mean good things. Okay. It might be easier on your pocketbook, but that's not going to help you in the long run. Sometimes you have to make a serious investment, but you, like Laura said, you need to figure out what you need. And if you don't know what you need, if you're thinking, well, I don't know what I need, that's okay. Start doing some research, start looking into free communities, start looking into that, and then you will figure it out. But you just have to do the work.
Absolutely. And many coaches, mentors, consultants will have some kind of call that's a free call. So if you book mine, I ask 5 little questions and then we have a call. And it's a chemistry call to see, actually, I say to people, it's upped recently, I probably say no to 75% of the people who want to work with me.
Yeah.
So again, it's looking if it's right to work with people. And I don't mean the timing's right. I mean, actually, is there a synergy? Are you going to help them? And understand what you're looking for. I'm known for being a no BS person. I have a technique called the Velvet Hammer. Rachel's experienced this.
I love it.
But it's the kind of type of person I am when you're working with me. So you've got to do your due diligence. But I will say, before we move on to our next point, that mentor, coaching, consultants, I've had them for years myself. I will ask. We both invest very highly of what we do. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to hold a mirror up to you. So even if you've been in business a long time, sometimes you just need that external person reflecting back something that you already know, that you go, I know this. Why am I not doing that? I'm like, as you just said, Rachel, yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
And because it's so hard for us to do the internal on ourselves, especially if you're a coach, mentor, or consultant, or do any of these services.
Yes.
You probably are the cobbler's shoes, great at doing it for others, not awesome at doing it for yourself.
Oh, for sure. And I think too, when you invest in yourself, you have that buy-in, right? Because you're thinking, okay, well, I need to do something. I need to make sure I do this work because I'm paying for it.
Yeah. And it transitions onto our next point about mindset.
Yes, I love this. We could talk about mindset forever.
And we both get so excited because we know the power of it. But let's strip it out. If people don't know what mindset is, how do you define mindset?
Oh gosh, of course you're going to ask me this. I call Laura the mindset ninja. Laura, I could talk for hours about how amazing she is. I think it's your state of mind. It's how you approach things. It's your state of mind.
I like him. I love it. I talk about it in terms of internal mastery. So,
yeah.
It's you can use many different words. It's basically the thoughts that are going on in your head.
Yeah.
And there's always some interesting things when you come to mindset. So we were just talking about mentoring, coaching, or group program. So one of the points I'm going to say about is if you are surrounding yourself, and I'm going to say if you are nourishing your mind. So just like you nourish your body, or we don't if we're eating whatever we want to eat or having a little drink or whatever, you nourish your mind. If you are nourishing your mind with people who aren't raising your vibration, aren't challenging you in a positive way, aren't doing all these things, and you are surrounded by nothing's going to work right now, it's all doomed, all this stuff, your mind is being nourished for the whole point of what's the point? I'll just surrender. So we are nourishing our mind. And when we come to mindset, I say often about social media, that scroll that people don't necessarily realize that you're doing, your mind is still sifting of whether to stop. It's not, you don't literally go through, do I stop? Do I stop? For some reason, your finger stops on something. There's a whole other kind of probably class we could have on that.
Yeah.
But if you are constantly seeing these messages that aren't nourishing you, and it's not about challenging, you can have positive challenges, can't you, Rachel? It's amazing to be positively challenged. But if they're not nourishing your mind, then actually get to unfollowing people very quickly. If you are in Facebook groups or you're in other social media or collectives that aren't nourishing you and lifting you up and challenging you positively, leave them.
Yeah.
It's, if we want to talk about mindset even before hiring someone, that's something everybody could do right now.
Yes.
Doesn't cost anything. Just choose what you're nourishing your mind with.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So another thing that just occurred to me when you were talking about that, we were just talking about the importance of community and mentoring and all of that. That kind of that's another reason why it's so important to find a community of like-minded people.
Huge.
So that you are nourishing that mindset, because you can be surrounded by people. Just listen, I have a husband who, in the past it was like, I don't know if you can do this, Rachel. Like, oh, I love your idea, but I mean, not to be rude or mean or anything, but just and you take that on. I was like, nope, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And I did, but when we have no idea even the things that are coming in that affect that mindset. And so if you're thinking things like, well, I just don't know if I can do this, or I just don't know if I'm enough, or I don't know if I have the capability to build a big, strong business, whatever, that's your mindset. And that's negative. Like, those are negative thoughts.
Absolutely. And it's that. I love what you said about your husband, because actually our family and friends, if they're not entrepreneurs as well, the advice that can be given, whether it's solicited or not, I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. Are you sure you can do that? And then by the way, this is a truth bomb. Every time someone asks you a question, whether it's me, it's Rachel, it's anybody else, it's your other half or family or friends, you actually process that question and give an answer. Even if you're thinking, I don't like that. If someone says to you, Rachel, can you do that? You're going, can I do it? You try on the question.
Yes.
So every time someone asks you a question, if it's not a powerful, positively challenging question, you're still trying it. So if someone's saying to you every day, you sure you can do this? You sure you can do this? That's tiring. Can I do it? Should I do it? Can I do it? Shall I? You are still trying these things on. So if the question was, how do you make it happen? Let's reframe the question to a powerful one. You're going, okay, how do I make this happen? Not, can you make this happen?
Mm-hmm. And reframing is so important.
Huge.
I mean, can we talk about that really quickly?
Yeah. So if you don't know what reframing is, anybody, then it basically is any sentence or question that we've got, how to change it into a powerful movement. So we call it reframing. So it's literally sometimes just changing slight words. There's, the power of a word is phenomenal. Just changing it to help you. One of the things is with kind of business coaching and mindset coaching is, because we answer questions, we want to have what we call a direction of travel. So if someone says to you, do you think you can do this? The kind of answers you've got are yes or no. That's a yes or no. If someone says to you, how do you make this happen? There's a direction of travel. It means that your mind's going, how do I make this happen? What do I need to do? What's the next step that has to happen? So if you want to sell into a store in wholesale, not can you sell into them wholesale? Because yes or no, doesn't really leave you far to go. If someone says to you, well, how do you make it happen selling wholesale into that store? I don't know. How do I make it happen? What is my next step? The slight reframe empowers you to seek the next step.
Yes.
And again, you don't need to pay any more money for that. Just look at what you are saying to yourself constantly and seek a reframe in there. Seek to how to change it to empower you.
Right. And I think too, if you think about it, kind of like in a bigger picture, not even realizing, right? Here's the thing. All these thoughts, all these things happen. You don't even realize you're thinking these things, right? So it takes some work. It takes some work to really remember to think that way. But I want you to also think, for example, failure. I mean, what is failure, right? But we always think, oh, I don't want to fail. If I fail, then it means I can't do this. We put so much meaning into failure, but is failure, like, this is a reframe. Is failure really failure, or is that just us getting closer to our goal? Is it just us realizing, okay, well, that way doesn't work. So how am I going to get to, do the things that I want to do? So just think about it like that, because oftentimes, I mean, I switched businesses, a year ago, and went from a very, very successful partnership to being solo. And that wreaked so much wreaked havoc. Either way, there was a lot of mindset, like things that I had to work through that I'm still working through today. But I did have failures along the way, and nobody wants to fail. But here's the thing, when you fail, good things come from that. You grow stronger. You realize, okay, I'm that much closer to my goal now, and this isn't the way. It's just all about reframing. Because if everything came so easily, we wouldn't have the amazing, the way when we finally arrive at that destination.
And if I was going to say now, because this is what me and Rachel, we know each other, so I know I can challenge Rachel. You just said nobody wants to fail. You said no one wants to
fail.
And I would challenge it. I would do a reframe on that. Do we want to fail? Well, what if we want to fail? What if we want to fail? Because if we're chasing success and we're chasing failure, then we're just learning. What we're actually saying is, I want to learn.
Yes. Well, and that I was actually going to go in that. At first I thought, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. Now that I've failed all those times, and again, I don't like to say the word fail because I think I've just learned, right? But failed. I am so thankful I went through that, because I've learned, and all the skills that I've learned. My mentor is James Wedmore. And he says, he doesn't see a problem. He doesn't say a problem and go, forget it. He loves problems, because then he can figure out what the solution is. What's the solution? There's always a solution, always a solution.
Yeah. And it's such an important thing when we come to mindset. So we talked a little bit about mindset. I just want to kind of add one more point in this about what we call generalizations. So generalizations in terms of mindset is specifically right now, what we might be hearing is no one is buying. Everybody is struggling. So a generalization is when there's no specifics, because what happens is it gives the mind no room for movement. So we're not even looking for a failure. We're not looking for a solution, because we've said no one's buying. It's like a full stop at the end of the sentence, isn't it? It's like, no one's buying. Well, why bother? If someone said, okay, is no one buying, or are some people not buying? Okay, so if some people aren't buying, who then is buying? So how do I talk to the people who are buying? You notice this when we have heightened stress, when we have heightened fear. If you journal or you write down and you start noticing these generalizations, just ask specifically. Ask yourself, is that a truth? Is everybody struggling? Is no one buying? Because if you can give yourself some movement, if it's not everybody or no one, then that movement again seeks the failure, seeks the solution and the problem, not just, well, hands in the air, let's give up because no one's doing it. So it's kind of these nuances that really become important when we're talking about, like, even the next point of selling. Because if you were to say nobody's buying right now, then it's really hard to talk about how to sell in the current climate. Because you've almost answered the question, haven't you? Before we've even got to the question of how do you sell in the current climate, it says no one's buying. So what do you think your tips are right now, Rachel, for selling in the current climate? What would you say?
The first thing I would say is that people are buying. And my industry, so direct sellers and network marketers, when COVID, right at the beginning of COVID, everyone was like, well, I can't sell my product now. No one's buying. These past 3 months or 4 months have been one of the highest in the direct sales industry. Because why? Because people are buying. Okay. It doesn't matter. You just have to figure out, like Laura said, who is buying. Okay. And speak their language. So I think the selling in this climate kind of goes again back to the relationships. It's key to be connecting with your people right now. And I not to sell your product, just to connect. Hey, how are you doing? This has been a crazy time. We finally can come out of our houses. How are you doing? How are things? Literally just reaching out to build that connection, because what happens is they're going to start feeling that connection with you again. They're going to be, their guard is down, right? Because they don't feel like you're just selling or whatever you're doing, and you're building that relationship. So that's I would say my big thing is to really hone in on building those relationships right now, because you can sell your product.
Absolutely. You really can. And I think what the example that was in my head that you've just hit the nail on the head, which is establish the relationship. So there's certain social media platforms that it's almost like walking up to a bar and walking up to someone, having a one-sided conversation. Hi, how are you doing right now? Not listening for an answer. I see that you do this and I can do this. It's literally like having a one-sided conversation. Yeah. There is no relationship building. It's very hard to sell a product because, I mean, how many times do you just delete that? Anyway, because the person isn't just, hi, how are you? Wait for a response. Let's build a relationship. It is this kind of almost like verbal diarrhea of here's my whole sales pitch in one communication. So I think selling right now has changed. I think you need to know your audience. You need to understand their fears. You need to understand what's going on in their business right now. You need to understand if things have changed. So if they were doing business one way that might have been in person, that they might have completely shifted and now we're in the online market for pitching, for doing all of these sample days and anything like this, how is it working? And I know the new normal is a term that people aren't knowing, but in our post-COVID world,
right,
how can you sell knowing your audience, knowing how to make things easier for them to buy? We say never put up barriers. Amazon's a great example of this. One click and you've bought something and you go, how did I just spend so much?
Yeah.
Like click, whoa, how did I do it? So how do you do that for different audiences? How do you sell to your audience? And again, it doesn't matter whether it's B2B, B2C. How do you sell and make it easy for them to buy what you've got?
It's true.
You're looking mesmerized, Rachel.
Well, I'm like, because you're right. You are right on. You've got to figure out what your audience needs, what they want. And that's why business is so, I get so excited about it, because it's so creative. You have to figure, it's not just what you're selling, friends. It's literally the whole kit and caboodle, it's just everything. It's how you're going to present it. It's how you're going to connect with your audience. It's all of it. And you just have, and it's fun. It's not meant to be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming at times, but I really encourage you to really just take the time to connect with your people. Just connect. Have fun.
And I'm going to tag team onto that I'm going to say, get curious.
Yes.
Get curious and ask your audience, what do they want right now? Get curious. And when you bring the fun to it, it changes it. When I'm working with people, I say, if I see in the calendar, it says business development, people go, it's not the bring it on. It's got to bring that energy. You've got to get curious, because when we come to business recovery in the long term, it will be people who know their audience, whether you have the Ross from Friends pivot or not.
Yes.
It's do you need to pivot for your audience? What does your sector want? There will probably be some pivoting for most people, even how they deliver different products and services and meetings. But there's so much scope if we seek opportunity. And I always say, if there's not a door there, we'll build a door. How do you get into where you want to get to? How do you get curious and make it fun, do it differently? But when you see it as almost like a challenge, but a fun challenge, not something that you have to do, the business recovery in the long term will be there for those people who come with that kind of mindset. They've got the relationships that we've been talking about. They probably have some kind of support, coach, mentor, consultant, peer support. They've got their mindset in that frame of, right, okay, that's interesting. Didn't mean for this to happen. But what do we do next as a company, or what do I do next? Those will be the people I predict will come out the other side and changed in a good way. Because their muscle, their mindset muscle around growth mindset and actually going, bring on the next challenge because I'm looking forward to it, that stands you in such amazing foundations when you come to growing a business.
So it does. And it all basically comes down to mindset. It does.
Our five small tips: mindset. And then build on other things on top of that. Really.
Yes. Mhm. Yep, that's it.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So I know we've covered a lot in this session, haven't we, Rachel?
We have.
We've covered so much. So
I don't. Sorry,
Come
I was going to say this, and I don't know if this is okay to say, but I'm going to. Laura and I did a podcast episode together, but it's so good, and so I can share that during the live chat when we do that. But I just wanted you guys to know it's so good, and I don't know if I can share that, but it's called. So this can be edited out if you don't. But it's called Making the Leap, and it's episode 30.
And it is. If you have any voices saying that you are not good enough,
yes,
then it talks about your inner mean girl. Yeah. And it's a concept that I use, a model that I use, and there is so many light bulb moments in there that you go, oh, there is those. So it is powerful. You know, so much comes down to mindset, doesn't it, Rachel? And then layering other things on top. But we have covered a huge amount of different things.
We have.
Podcast you can go and look at. We've got some amazing stuff. Both of us independently as well. Rachel and I have worked together a couple of times. It's always a hoot, as you can probably tell. But the hoot doesn't stop here. So we're going to be around on live chat, aren't we? So
we are.
Type away. I don't know why I have to do that. I'm like doing the time thing, like type away. Type away. And we're happy to answer anything. Individually, together we'll be on. So please do ask us anything on a huge amount of things that we've just discussed.